Hello and welcome back again to Rage Gaming and more Wilds talk. Now that a little time has passed and more people are back from Gamescom, we've seen the community dissect the new information and discuss what people learned while they were there. I was there myself, I played the game for about 90 minutes, I made a few videos about the different topics with my own footage. But on top of what I learned, we did learn a lot more about the weapons since then, thanks to different creator streams at the event, interviews, of course the Gamescom dev streams themselves, and more. So as normal, I'll be crediting any clips I show from whoever whenever I can, so please check out anyone we do reference for full videos and more to see. But my goal for this video is to throw new information about every weapon at you. For some, it might just be one or two quick things, or more detailed for others. So let's just get into it. Running down the list in the usual order, we'll start with greatsword. As you likely know, you can guard with certain weapons. Not all weapons can use guard, but those that can trigger clashes, a new mechanic in Wilds. Essentially, you're going to guard right as you're about to be hit, like parrying the attack, and potentially trigger the clash. If you do trigger the clash with a greatsword though, you can instantly follow it up with a true charge slash, which is a pretty effective way to punish. It makes going for the guards incredibly worth it, the control you get over the monster, and the straight strong hit that follows. Guards in general felt very quick, and the perfect guard itself cost nothing to land, so no damage taken compared to say normal chip damage when you just do a guard normally. Finally for greatsword, a pretty incredible realization to do with shoulder bash, and we're looking at footage by Gamma breaking down his own footage of the event, showcasing how when he landed a shoulder bash, it maintained the charge level of what he was on beforehand, not needing to charge up again after the bash. Essentially, you're being rewarded for successfully shoulder bashing, maintaining your charge level, which would lead you to a full charged true charge slash much quicker. This appears to be the point where if you tackle, it's immediate true charge slash ready. Whereas before, even if you successfully tackled, there'd still be a couple seconds of charge time to get that true charge fully ready. So that is a major step forward. Moving on to longsword, here's just a quick one. You can indeed cancel a helm breaker now while mid-air. So if you go for that helm breaker and you see the monster's moved away or something's happened and you're going to miss it, you don't have to commit to that miss anymore. That is a really nice new function. And this is on top of a new ability that the longsword has to hold R2 right and then start charging. It's a new stance where he holds the sword kind of above himself, and then as you can see the spirit gauge begins to fill up. Then upon release we have the spirit round slash, which ultimately levels it up, in this case from white to yellow. It's like an incredible ability to just throw out the spirit round slash attack without first doing the whole combo, which is kind of insane. Next we have sword and shield. The SNS actually has multiple focus strike options compared to other weapons, as revealed in fact by Jono during a stream with creators Arix and Rurkan. Essentially, you choose to focus strike with your sword or shield. The focus strike will attack the monster. If you hit a wound, it'll trigger, so you run up the monster and launch into the air, and then you can perform what you choose. That could be the sword or the shield. Like in this case, we see the shield slam land down like a plunging attack, and in this example, instantly knock the monster down for the big KO damage behind that hit. So, very effective and pretty cool you get the choices with the focus attacks. Here's a couple for my main weapon. It's our new dual blades. I learned these playing the game myself. Firstly, a big one. Our blade dance is now a longer combo. I've been calling it a 3-parter, but it might be more accurate to call it a 4-parter. They weirdly didn't show this in any of the trailers. And if you didn't know, I lost my third part of the footage, which is the part where I was using my dual blades against Ray. So I don't even have my own footage of this, but I've kind of stitched together the clips to show the full dance. Essentially, it starts as normal, where you press triangle and circle together, and then you held in place. But now it's separated into parts. So you can continue the combo by pressing triangle and circle again, or even R2 to do part 2, then 3, and the finisher. Essentially, it's the same combo as before, but with an extra bit at the end where the character starts to do some horizontal and then vertical flips, doing this very cool combo at the end. This is really nice because it means you can not continue the combo if the monster's moved away, or maybe you need to stop and get out the way. But there is a kind of flash on the hunter to show that the combo is continuing. I am interested to see if there's some kind of specific timing on this. I would just press it and it'd work, but I was wondering if you hit it at the right time, you get some sort of bonus, though that's pure speculation. Of course, there's the new counter style evade that exists. If you evade right as you're about to be hit, like you're going for a counter or a parry, it'll actually cause this cool attack dodge, which leaves you blue for a little while, and then during that buff, all of your basic evades are also going to attack at the same time. So during that, you won't need to flurry spin to get around. You could just do a normal evade and do both at once. I found this really smooth and just kind of happened in my normal gameplay without thinking. Compared that to the rise counter where I needed to maintain wire bugs so that I could always do it. This feels much smoother. I really like it. Okay, next up, hammer. Here is just a fun one. Hammer can, in fact, still launch your friends in a party, as shown by Ryuzu, who did exactly this with the golf swing. Speaking of the golf swing, apparently it works as one of the new offset attack types, which is basically a new name for types of encounters. We see the offset attack of the greatsword, where you send it forward, and if the weapon is flying and the monster's attack is flying into it at the same time, the kind of counter will occur, sending the monster reeling. This can apparently be done with a golf swing, the kind of uppercut swing of the hammer, allowing for some serious counter potential with this weapon. Next though, we have the hunting horn. I was originally made aware of it by fellow creator Superrad, who talked about how you can play a song for a buff like normal with a hunting horn, and then that buff will last a little while, right? But with our new method in Wilds to have 2 weapons at once, you could just then swap via the seikret to a different weapon and yet maintain the hunting horn buff until it finishes. So of course there's a lot of memes about greatsword mains who are bringing hunting horns as their second weapon, playing a song or a few for the buffs, then swapping to the greatsword and enjoying hunting horn buffs without actually using it. This could in fact be a meta concept unless they change how this works, so we'll see. Next, here's a quick one for lance. The skyward thrust kind of returns, but it's in its second part. The idea is that you would leap up into the air and then slam down, doing damage on the way up and damage on the way back down. Well, the animation attack is kind of back, where you do a mount finisher with the lance, leaping up and kind of penetrating through the entire body of the monster. I can imagine the bigger the monster, the more effective this is going to be. Though it feels very Final Fantasy Dragoon to me, and it looks awesome. Okay, so now for a quick one on the gun lance. This is a pretty exciting one, but one that I'm interested to see discussed in the comments of this video, because it's going around right now that shelling is either not affecting your sharpness at all, or at very least, very likely, it's having a massively reduced sharpness loss compared to what the gun lance players are used to. So if you're shelling and spamming your shells into targets, you're losing a lot less sharpness in Wilds, that's for sure, but it does appear maybe that you're not losing any. So if you guys have any confirmation on that, let me know. But I did also see an interesting detail when watching gun lance gameplay. The idea is that you attack wounds and deal more damage to them, right? Kind of like weak points. It does appear that shelling wounds doesn't seem to increase damage. Shelling is always kind of weird with the damage it does, but it would be cool if you could, use focus mode to aim accurately at wounds and then shell them for extra damage. But if it's not dealing extra damage, that would be kind of lame. Next up, a few for a switch axe, one of my favorite weapons in the series. As we've shown with greatsword and potentially hammer, there's the offset attack for switch axe. This can be used in both the axe and sword mode though, which means it doesn't matter which you're in, you could go for a counter with an offset attack if given the opportunity. It'll cause a similar reaction to what we saw with the greatsword, causing this big reeling dramatic flinch from the monster, which if you land can be followed up with a strong attack. This could either be a heavy slam with triangle or circle, so using the axe mode, or you could go for a transformation slash with the sword with R2. Another great detail we've seen is that zero sum discharge has a new follow-up, which basically just means press R2 after sending out the zero sum discharge, and it'll do that new horizontal spin attack we saw in the weapon trailer. That's what that is. It really reminds me of one of those underused switch skills that was in Rise. It changed your zero sum discharge to not allow you to attach, I believe, and it did a kind of horizontal spin like this, so I guess they've kind of folded it in, making it a combo of the discharge and making it actually viable, which is awesome to see. Moving on, how about Charge Blade? There's a couple things here. Kind of like what we just said with Switch Axe, how, the axe and the sword can both use offset attacks. The Charge Blade can use focus strikes in sword or axe mode, no problem. If you use it with the sword though, you'll get a nice double slash, and if you trigger it on a wound, the follow-up is essentially a Savage Axe swing, and that's one way to seemingly trigger that mode as an option. We see Savage Axe also occur as a mounted finisher too, so there seems to be other ways to trigger it. It's just a question of whether you can use it beyond that, in combo or otherwise. Also, there's some new stuff to do with super amped element discharge, like being able to combo it after a regular amped discharge, or after landing a perfect guard, you can combo that straight into an SAED. And since you'll be looking to do clashes with any weapon that can actually guard, if the clash doesn't trigger, you could potentially combo that straight into an SAED if you want. So yes, really worth it to go for perfect guards in Wilds. For Insect Glaive, it's just a quick one, a little clip to show how the focus attack actually looks in full. It is a very cool, flashy animation, but the real kicker here is the fact that it gets all 3 Kinsect essences upon use if you do land it on a wound. So that's incredibly efficient, maintaining those essences throughout a fight as soon as you have a wound to grab. But if you're unaware, what it seems to be with the case with Insect Glaive is they're not doing the bounce fly attacks anymore. At least in the examples and discussions about it, we've seen Insect Glaive use these aerial attacks and come straight down. We're not seeing them bounce back up into the air to stay in the air for suboptimal DPS, sure, but fun DPS and kind of an iconic moveset of the Insect Glaive. So if you guys know more about that topic with bouncing and flying Insect Glaive, let me know. It would be lame for an iconic kind of playstyle of the Insect Glaive to just be gone. Next, we have light bowgun and heavy bowgun, because they're kind of a tied concept. Perfect range is basically the optimal range you can deal damage with one of your bow guns. In Wilds, the range is going to be different between the weapons, where light bowgun's perfect range is now a shorter range, meaning you'll generally be closer on average than maybe you used to normally play. The heavy bowgun, by comparison, that perfect range is now at a longer distance, letting you play from further away while still dealing optimal DPS. I guess they're trying to give them more separate identities in this way, and between the two of them, light bowgun is obviously the more mobile weapon, so playing up close, they can handle that a bit better than heavy bowgun, I suppose. Lastly, the big one, the most OP sounding thing from all of the wild stuff we saw, is the bow and how it seems to be recovering stamina on a perfect evade. I believe this is called a discerning dodge, and not only will it give you a chunk of stamina, potentially all your stamina back, we haven't had that denied or confirmed yet, it'll also charge your gauge, just like when you're dealing damage. If you're unaware, there's a new gauge at the bottom right, which as you build up, gets 3 notches on it, and you can spend those notches to generate tracer arrows, a new attack, or generate coatings for follow-up arrow shots. But there you have it, just a bunch of stuff we've learned since Gamescom ended, a lot of extra details to consider for all the weapons. Obviously I was short and sweet for all of them, there's no way I could cover everything that you could learn about each individual weapon, and honestly I'm sure there's still a lot I don't know. So if there's anything you think I could have mentioned that you've learned, then let us know in the comments. But for now, I've been Hollow, you've been you, thanks for watching.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.